The Reaping on Prison Island, a short story idea by Alfred, composed by AI. Chapter 1. Spring Break Dreams. The Meridian's edge cut through the azure waters like a blade through silk, its pristine white hull gleaming under the afternoon sun. At 90 feet of pure luxury, the yacht was Marcus Blackwood's pride and joy, a graduation gift from his oil executive father that made even his wealthy college friends whistle in appreciation. "This is insane, Marcus!" shouted Jessica Chen over the roar of the engine and whipping wind. Her long black hair streamed behind her as she leaned against the bow railing, designer sunglasses reflecting the endless ocean. "Your dad really went all out." Marcus grinned from behind the wheel, his sandy hair tousled by the sea breeze. "Wait until you see what's below deck. Full bar, theater room, and a hot tub that fits 8 people. Please tell me we're not skinny dipping," groaned Tyler Morrison, emerging from the cabin with a beer in hand. The pre-med student was already sunburned despite the SPF 50 Jessica had forced on everyone that morning. "Speak for yourself," laughed Samantha Rodriguez, adjusting her bikini top as she stretched out on the leather seating. "Some of us aren't afraid of a little adventure." She shot a meaningful look at her boyfriend Derek Walsh, who was busy checking his phone for signal bars. "No service out here," Derek muttered, his athletic frame tense with frustration. "What if there's an emergency?" "That's the point," Marcus called back. Total disconnect from reality for one glorious week. No parents, no professors, no responsibilities. Just us, the open ocean, and enough alcohol to forget our names. The 5 friends had been inseparable since freshman orientation at Stanford. Now, with graduation looming in just 2 months, this spring break trip felt like their last chance to be reckless and young. Marcus had planned everything meticulously. 7 days island hopping through the remote Pacific, with enough fuel and supplies to keep them comfortable in their floating paradise. As the sun began its descent toward the horizon, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and purples, none of them noticed the subtle changes that had been made to their vessel. Deep in the engine room, carefully sabotaged fuel lines waited for the perfect moment to fail. Hidden modifications to the navigation system would soon send them drastically off course. Chapter 2. Storm and Wreckage. The first sign of trouble came at 2:17 a.m. Marcus jolted awake in the master cabin as the yacht lurched violently to starboard. The gentle rocking that had lulled him to sleep was replaced by chaotic pitching that sent books and bottles crashing to the floor. "What the hell?" He stumbled out of bed, fighting to maintain balance as another massive wave slammed into the hull. Above deck, the scene was chaos. What had been a clear, starlit night was now a maelstrom of rain and howling wind. Jessica clung to the railing, her face pale with seasickness, while Tyler tried desperately to secure loose equipment that was sliding across the deck. "Where did this come from?" Garrick shouted, having to yell to be heard over the storm. "The weather report said clear skies all week." Marcus fought his way to the bridge, his bare feet slipping on the walls of the rain-slicked deck. The instrument panel was a constellation of warning lights. Engine failure, navigation offline. None of it made sense. The Meridian's edge was practically brand new, equipped with every safety feature money could buy. "The engine's dead," he called out, panic creeping into his voice. "We're running on auxiliary power only." Samantha emerged from below deck, her usually perfect hair plastered to her skull. "The radio's not working either. I can't reach the Coast Guard." Through the storm, a dark shape began to materialize on the horizon. At first, Marcus thought it might be Salvation, another vessel perhaps, or an island with a harbor where they could ride out the storm. But as they drifted closer, propelled by winds and currents beyond their control, the silhouette resolved into something far more ominous. "Is that?" Jessica's voice trailed off. It was an island, all right, but not the tropical paradise they'd been expecting. Jagged cliffs rose from churning waters, crowned by the unmistakable outline of massive concrete walls and guard towers. Even in the darkness and rain, the imposing structure was unmistakably institutional and abandoned. "It's a prison," Tyler said quietly. "Or was." The yacht struck the rocky shore with a grinding, splintering crash that threw all 5 students to the deck. The beautiful Meridian's edge lurched up onto the beach, her hull cracked and taking on water, her dreams of luxury now just expensive driftwood. Chapter 3. The Abandoned Fortress. Dawn revealed the full extent of their situation. The storm had passed, leaving behind crystalline skies and gentle waves that mocked the previous night's violence. But the Meridian's edge was finished, her hull breached in multiple places, engine compartment flooded, electronics fried by seawater. Well, Marcus said with forced lightness, surveying the wreckage, at least the insurance will cover it. They stood on a narrow beach of black volcanic sand, dwarfed by the prison complex that loomed above them. Rust-stained concrete walls rose 40 feet high, topped with coils of razor wire that glinted in the morning sun. Guard towers stood empty and silent, their windows dark as dead eyes. "This place gives me the creeps," Jessica muttered, hugging herself despite the warming air. Why would they build a prison way out here? Derek had found a faded sign half buried in the sand. He brushed away the grime to reveal stenciled letters. Blackrock Federal Penitentiary, authorized personnel only. Est, 1962. Blackrock. Tyler read aloud. "I've heard of this place. They closed it down in the 80s after some kind of scandal. Prisoner riots, guard corruption, mysterious deaths. The whole facility was supposed to be demolished, but I guess they just abandoned it instead." "Great," Samantha said sarcastically. "We're stranded on Murder Island." Marcus tried to project confidence he didn't feel. "Look, the yacht's finished, but that doesn't mean we're stuck here forever. The emergency beacon should still work once I can get some power to it. In the meantime, that prison probably has shelter and maybe even supplies left behind. You want us to go in?" Jessica's voice climbed an octave. "Would you rather sleep on the beach? There could be another storm tonight." It took 2 hours of searching before they found a way inside. A rusted maintenance door on the north wall had been left unlocked, its hinges screaming in protest as Derek forced it open. The sound echoed through the complex like a banshee's wail. The interior was a maze of corridors and cell blocks, everything painted an institutional green and gray. Their footsteps echoed off the concrete floors as they explored, flashlight beams dancing across empty cells and abandoned guard stations. Graffiti covered many walls, prisoner names, countdown calendars, and disturbing drawings that made Jessica look away. "This place is huge," Tyler observed, his voice hushed with unconscious reverence for the dead space. "How many prisoners did they house here?" "Too many," came a voice from the shadows. All 5 friends spun around, hearts hammering, but the corridor behind them was empty. "Did someone else hear that?" Derek asked quietly. They stood in tense silence, listening. Somewhere in the depths of the prison, a sound echoed, metal scraping against stone. Click, 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 click. "Probably just the building settling," Marcus said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Come on, let's find somewhere to set up camp." Chapter 4. The First Night. They chose the old warden's office as their base camp. It had windows overlooking the courtyard, multiple exits, and a heavy desk they could barricade the door with if needed. As the sun set, painting the prison walls blood red, they shared a meager dinner of snacks salvaged from the yacht. "So what's our plan?" Tyler asked, gnawing on a granola bar. "Just wait for rescue?" Marcus nodded, though uncertainty flickered in his eyes. "I got the emergency beacon working. Someone should pick up the signal within 48 hours. Assuming anyone's monitoring this frequency," Derek added grimly. "They are," Marcus insisted. "They have to be." Outside, the wind began to pick up, whistling through the razor wire and broken windows. The sound was eerily melodic, almost like whispers in a language none of them could understand. Jessica had been quiet during dinner, staring out at the darkening courtyard. "There's something out there," she said suddenly. "What do you mean?" Samantha leaned forward, trying to peer through the grimy glass. "In the courtyard, I keep seeing movement." They all crowded around the window. The courtyard was a concrete expanse surrounded by cell blocks, with a few dead trees and the rusted remains of exercise equipment. In the center stood what looked like a small garden area, now overgrown with weeds and something else. "Are those?" Tyler's voice trailed off. Scattered throughout the courtyard, barely visible in the fading light, were tall wooden stakes. And on top of each stake, weathered and bleached by years of sun and rain, sat a human skull. "Oh God," Jessica whispered, backing away from the window. "We need to get out of here. Now." "Get out? How?" Derek snapped, his own fear making him cruel. "Our yacht is in pieces. We're miles from anywhere. And even if we could swim to the mainland, we don't know which direction it is." "Derek's right," Marcus said, though he couldn't tear his eyes away from those grinning skulls. "We're stuck here until help comes. We just need to stay calm and stick together." That night, they took turns keeping watch. During Tyler's shift, around 3 a.m., he heard it clearly for the first time. The methodical scraping of metal against stone, echoing through the corridors below. Click, click, click. It seemed to be getting closer. Chapter 5. The Hunt Begins. Derek Walsh died first. It happened on the second morning, while the others were still asleep. He'd gone along to the beach to check on the yacht's wreckage, hoping against hope that something might be salvageable. They found his body an hour later in the courtyard, headless, his blood painting abstract patterns on the cracked concrete. His head was mounted on a fresh stake, still dripping. Jessica's screams could be heard throughout the entire complex. "We have to get out of here!" she sobbed, clinging to Marcus like a lifeline. "There's someone else on this island! Someone who's been here all along!" "The maintenance tunnels," Tyler said, his pre-med training helping him stay clinical even as his hands shook. Derek's wounds, they're clean cuts, made with something very sharp, like a blade. Marcus tried to project calm authority, but his voice cracked. "Okay, we know we're not alone. That means we need to be smart. No one goes anywhere by themselves. We stick together, we find a defensible position, and we wait for rescue." But their stalker had other plans. Over the next 2 days, the attacks continued with methodical precision. Tyler was next, taken while investigating strange sounds in the old infirmary. They found him in the same condition as Derek, decapitated, his head joining the growing collection in the courtyard. The killer seemed to know the prison layout perfectly, appearing and vanishing through passages that shouldn't exist. Sometimes they caught glimpses of him, a tall figure in a black hood, carrying what looked like a farming scythe. The curved blade gleamed wetly, even in darkness. And always, there was that sound preceding his arrival. Click, click, click. Metal scraping against stone as he dragged the scythe behind him through the corridors. Chapter 6. The Final Stand. By the fourth day, only Marcus, Jessica, and Samantha remained alive. They barricaded themselves in the warden's office, surviving on bottled water and stale crackers while jumping at every sound. The emergency beacon blinked steadily on the desk, its signal disappearing into an apparently empty sky. "Why is he doing this?" Jessica whispered for the 100th time. Her designer clothes were filthy now, her perfect makeup long since cried away. What does he want from us? Marcus had been wondering the same thing. The killer could have finished them all the first night if he'd wanted to. Instead, he seemed to be savoring the hunt, drawing it out, building terror like a fine wine. "Maybe he's been trapped here," Samantha suggested. "Some kind of prisoner who never left when they closed the facility. He's gone completely insane from isolation." A sound from the corridor made all three of them freeze. Click, click, click. He was coming. Marcus grabbed the heavy brass letter opener from the warden's desk, their only weapon. "Get behind me," he whispered. The door exploded inward, the barricade they built scattered like toys. In the doorway stood their nightmare, 7 feet tall, draped in black robes that might once have been a prisoner's uniform. His face was hidden in the depths of his hood, but his hands were clearly visible as they gripped the long wooden handle of a farming scythe. The curved blade was stained dark with the blood of their friends. Jessica screamed. The hooded figure moved with inhuman speed. The scythe whistled through the air and Samantha's head tumbled across the floor like a discarded doll. Jessica tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. The blade caught her at the neck, and suddenly Marcus was alone. He backed against the window, the letter opener trembling in his hand. "What do you want?" he gasped. "Why are you doing this?" For the first time, the killer spoke. His voice was like grinding stone, barely human after years of disuse. "The key," he rasped. "Give me the key." "What key? I don't know what you're talking about." The side point touched Marcus's throat. "Your father's key, the one he made you bring." Marcus's blood turned to ice. How could this madman know about? But then understanding crashed over him like a cold wave. The emergency beacon, the modified yacht, the convenient storm that had driven them exactly where someone wanted them to go. With numb fingers, he reached into his pocket and withdrew a small brass key on a gold chain, a family heirloom his father had insisted he wear, claiming it was for good luck. Marcus had never questioned it, never wondered why his father had been so specific about which yacht to take, which route to follow. The killer snatched the key and stepped back. The scythe arose and fell one final time. Chapter 7. In the silence that followed, the hooded figure moved through the prison with purposeful strides. Down into the basement levels, through corridors that had been sealed since the facility's closure, to a vault hidden beneath the old solitary confinement wing. He inserted the brass key into a lock that had waited 40 years to be opened. Inside the vault, stacked in neat bundles, was exactly $1 million in unmarked bills, payment for services rendered decades ago, when Blackrock Federal Penitentiary had been more than just a prison. It had been a way station for money laundering, drug smuggling, and worse crimes that required the cooperation of guards, wardens, and wealthy outside investors. Marcus's father had been one of those investors, a young oil executive looking to make quick profits through dirty money. When the scandal broke and the prison was shuttered, the evidence had been sealed away, the money hidden, and the key to it all given to the one man they couldn't afford to eliminate because he was already officially dead. Warden Samuel Carrick had been reported killed in the prisoner riots of 1987. In reality, he'd simply stayed behind when the last transport left, becoming the guardian of secrets that could destroy some very powerful people. For years, he'd waited on Blackrock Island, sustained by canned goods and rainwater, growing more feral and insane with each passing year. But he'd never forgotten the debt owed to him. Now, with his payment finally in hand, Carrick made his way to the hidden boat dock on the island's far side. A small motor launch waited there, maintained and fueled through careful raids on passing vessels over the decades. As dawn broke over the Pacific, the launch pulled away from Blackrock Island, its single passenger finally free. In the distance, the Coast Guard cutter that had finally responded to the emergency beacon was just appearing on the horizon. They would find 5 bodies and a mystery that would never be solved. But Samuel Carrick, now a very wealthy man with decades of experience staying invisible, would disappear into the vast anonymity of the modern world. The skulls in the courtyard, previous victims who had stumbled onto his island over the years, would remain unnamed and unidentified. And somewhere in a luxury penthouse bought with blood money, an old man would finally sleep soundly, knowing that some debts, no matter how long delayed, always come due in the end. The Meridian's Edge would remain on Blackrock Beach forever, a monument to the arrogance of youth and the patience of predators. The Pettons, and in the prison corridors, when the wind was just right, visitors would swear they could still hear the sound of metal scraping against stone. Click, click, click.